Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining our Let's Talk Business show. Today I have an exciting and absolutely phenomenal guest with me, the favorite speaker of mine, the favorite businessman of mine, Brad Sugars. With him, we will be talking business and strategies today, and who, if not Brad Sugars, knows how to run the business in the best possible way. Brad, thank you so much for joining my show. I really appreciate you coming here and sharing all your valuable knowledge with us.
Well, Olga, it looks like it's going to be a fun chat then, I guess. We're going to have to get some excitement going here, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, let's start conversation. And business is kind of crazy right now.
It is absolutely crazy. But what I must say that it is about right now, what can we do differently? And as Brad, as you, the best strategist in the world, the person to go to when it comes to growing, expanding, and even building and reshaping business, what people should do right now?
I think the first and foremost is you've got to, sit down and understand that this is not a forever thing. This is a thing that's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take it's going to go negative for quite a while, and then we're going to get back to positive again. And this is my fourth economic downturn running businesses, and so one of the things you have to understand in an economic downturn is what are we in for? And 2008, sort of that was an L-shaped downturn, like it was down and then it was going to be flat for a long time. Previous downturns to that were U-shaped. Most of them are very economically created. This one, though, is very different. This is created by a health crisis. Yeah. And I don't want to come across as insensitive because I'm trying to just talk the business side of it. I'm not really an expert in the health side. But the way this looks, because of three things. Number one, not all businesses have been affected in this the same way. You've got approximately a third of companies that are fully shut down. So approximately. Now, in some markets, like where I live here in Las Vegas, that is much bigger than a third because the biggest employers are all fully shut. In other markets, it's a bit less than that. It depends on the market. Then you've got about a third of companies in the middle that have found a way to pivot, found a way to change, found a way to be virtual or viral or do something that will keep them going and keep their staff employed and pay the bills. And so that's an important thing. But then you've also got a third of businesses, and again, it's slightly more in some markets and slightly less in others, that are absolutely booming. I was talking with one of my coaches yesterday, and one of her clients is a jigsaw puzzle manufacturer. And prior to this, they had what they believed was 1 year's stock sitting on the shelves. Now they're sold out and they're back. Another client who's a conveyor belt company, they literally cannot keep up with demand for service and install for the Amazons and all of these big distribution companies. So you're sitting down looking at this saying, well, okay, what impact is that going to have on the market? That McDonald's is probably going to have their record profit forever in the day. There's all these companies that are having records. And then on the other end, there's companies that are fully shut down, which, for me as a small business advocate, it's very annoying because, all the big businesses that are still trading and yet the small businesses have to shut down. What people can buy their clothing at a supermarket store, but they can't go and buy it from a little store. That's just not very fair. But you add to that the fact that the governments have been very generous in handouts.
Yeah.
You add to that there is a US election coming towards the end of the year, and you have three things that I believe will make sure that the world gets back on strong footing. In 2008, the US government gave out $800 billion in handouts to get the economy back moving. So far, they've done $2.5 trillion on this.
Wow.
So, and they're looking at another $3.5 trillion bill right now in the Senate. I don't think it'll get up, but I think there will be something of that magnitude happening between now and the election. So, all of these things, and all the economists are showing this is a V shape. We're going down sharply, but we're coming back up sharply too once we reopen. And all the good news every day about potential vaccines and potential cures and stuff are You know, those sorts of news are very good. Now, the flip side of that is there's still a lot of very bad news going on out there. There's still a lot of very challenging markets, because you've got, you know, third world countries where we're not getting any real reporting of any solid nature. But there's no way in the world their hospital systems are going to hold up to this sort of a virus. There's no way in the world that's going to happen. So, you know, we need to remember that you've got to put a plan together to survive the first 90 days. Now, I'd hope most businesses watching this have already done that. If they haven't, they should get with, one of my action coaches and get that going. But then you've got to put a plan together to come out of it. You know, what is your plan to open up again? Because opening up is going to be harder than closing down was.
I love that.
So that's a quick summary of where I think the world is at right now financially. So,
but I love that. And I think actually the favorite strategy when it comes to business is, for me, is your book, which is that instant cash flow. And I love
the first book I ever wrote. There you go.
Was it your very first one? Really?
First book ever.
But it still works. I mean, everything, just literally before the session, I was flicking through and I thought absolutely everything right now is so spot on. I mean, I know you mentioned that many businesses are right now shut down. They cannot operate, like small shops are shut and small restaurants are shut. But it's time to innovate and do things differently. And tools which you have here are so impressive. I mean, upsell, cross-sell, and downsell, we have online.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything's got to be done. I know, because I have 9 companies, and one of our companies, for example, it should have been fully shut down, but we worked out a way to get things going. It's a food truck business, and spring for us, the spring season is fully 50% of our annual revenue. So, you know, in 3 months, we do half of our annual revenue because of all of the concerts and festivals and everything in spring. And so we had to change. And, you know, we went to 8 weeks ago, maybe 9 now, when no one could get food. You remember, like, when the first couple of weeks and the supermarkets are out, and we just did a deal where we said to people, listen, because we have a commercial kitchen that we run everything from. We just said, listen, we're going to make family style meals. And if you want family style meals, so, because if you can't get groceries, we'll help out in that way. And, you know, in the end, we ended up with literally hundreds and hundreds of new customers that would never have bought from us before, but also meant we could trade through this, keep all of our staff, not fire anybody. You know, that's kind of very important in this time. I think that, and our staff really enjoyed the challenge of, let's keep this ship afloat. Let's do it. Let's go together. And I think that's what leadership really is in this moment. There's too many business owners who just threw in the towel far too quickly and said, oh, well, we're shut. No, there's many different ways you can become an essential business and start providing things that people need and do it in a way that's different to what you did. And, you know, I still sit in one of the greatest, or two of the best examples of this. One of our clients who's in the manufacturing business, mainly building steel, using steel to build mezzanine floors in warehouses and offices and things like that. And, you know, overnight their industry, in the place that they're doing business, construction was made non-essential. It's like, hang on, how can construction be okay, whatever. And they sat down and said, what are we going to do? And they said, well, we're in the construction business. It's not done. They said, well, we make stuff out of steel. What else can we make out of steel? And just happens, one of the guys is a weightlifter, and he said, well, I can't buy any weights right now, and I can't get to the gym. What if we start building barbells, dumbbells, and weights? And amazingly enough, they built this whole business in a 3-day period, got a website up and running, started selling, and then became a wholesaler, because all of the gym equipment supply companies couldn't get their weights and dumbbells because most of that comes from China. So they're like, where are we going to get this? And boom, they kept everybody employed. In fact, they had to employ more people, which is kind of cool in this environment. Another client a high-end chocolate retail store, and they were coming into Easter. And of course, Easter is for them, you know, Mother's Day and Easter are their 2 biggest times. And they're like, well, we can't have anyone come into the store for Easter. So they literally went and got a whole bunch of Easter bunny suits and had the bunny come and deliver them to your house. And they would hop through your yard and deliver them. And your kid would see, you know, it was, you're at 9:15, you're at 9:30. And the bunny would hop through the yard and leave the basket of eggs and drop a trail of eggs through it. And they had a record Easter. You know,
Oh my God.
I love hearing these stories because these people did pivot, they did innovate, they
Yes,
did do something different. And you know,
exactly.
the world is different. And for anyone that sits there thinking, oh, I can't wait for it to go back to normal, there is no old normal. It's done. You know, the
No.
day we invented CDs, the record business was out of business. So it's the same. Just think of it that way. Virtual is the new normal, because let's be really clear on this. People that would never, ever, ever have used Zoom are now comfortable using Zoom. People that would
Absolutely.
never have ever done a Facebook Live video are now doing them all day, every day. People that would never have shopped online are happy to shop online. And if your little store doesn't have an ability for me to buy online, it's crazy. Like I even look at, great example, my wife, her favorite clothing store. They called her up a few weeks back and said, listen, you can't come to us, but we can come to you. They drove
Wow.
out here. They put 2 racks of clothing that she would like, put them at the front door and said, listen, go and try all these on. We'll be back in a couple of hours to see what you wanted to keep and what you didn't. And
Bingo.
so, boom, they're
Yeah.
making money, you know. And I said to him, his name is Artie, I said, Artie, you better keep doing this. You know that if you stop doing this after this thing is over, you're crazy. You've got to keep doing this stuff. And that's where I think a lot of pivots, companies are going to make a lot more money because of it. You have to remember, if you go back to the 2008 crisis, the 2008 led us to Uber, led us to Airbnb. All of these companies that were created in the 08, 09, 10, 11 timeframe because of the crisis that happened. This is not an economic crisis. This is an economic transformation. And what we have to see with this transformation is that we have sped up the virtual nature of the world by somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 10 years. What would have taken 5 to 10 years, because your generation, millennials, Gen Z, 100% cool with virtual world, 100% cool with virtual working. You know, my generation and the baby boomers and all those older than me were not as cool with it. You know, I've worked from home for many years. I've always prided myself that my companies run themselves and I get to work from home and be a dad. But, you know, working from home and homeschooling 5 kids has been a real treat. Thank goodness their summer break starts in a week or so. You know, they don't have to go to school every day here at home. But I do have one comment about that, though. My kids' teachers did lie to me. It's not true. They are not a pleasure to have in class. They're a pain in the back.
I love that. At least you discovered that. Well, I'm
Yes.
sure it's slightly different when kids are at school rather when they're at home, because they have rules at school and they behave differently. And
Yeah,
I
and
think,
also, like, for us as employers, our rules have had to change, because for
yeah,
employers now, we've got to take into account that many of our staff are also homeschooling their kids.
yeah,
And so we have to be thinking about this from a format of, well, okay, what is it that we can do to assist you in homeschooling your kids? Because, you know, hours have to shift, hours have to be different. You know, I look
yeah,
at it from many of my staff's point of view, and it's like, dang, we've got to have an ability for them to still do their work, but take care of their family at the same time. So a lot of our staff are working different hours, starting earlier, finishing earlier, or starting and then having, you know, doing 3 or 4 hours and then stopping for 3 or 4 hours and then starting again. And, you know, so we've had to adjust. I think everyone's had to adjust for that sort of stuff.
I love that. And you see, I remember when I went to one of your seminars. God knows how many I went to, actually. But yes, I went to one of the seminars and I remember your words. You said it is about innovation in the business. And right now, you just proven with so many stories, and we can see everyday successful stories of those businesses which are innovating right now. They're really succeeding. And when you mentioned about video, it's quite funny how one of my clients, he actually told me, Olga, and he is a baby boomer. He said, Olga, because of our sessions, which we do online every week, I got used to these video calls so much that I actually realized that's a problem and that's a niche within companies training right now.
Mm.
Companies were never training their staff for video conferences because there was
Mhm.
no need. And now he's developing his program on that. And I was like, that's very creative. But he found the problem out of what he was getting used to during these sessions. So
Yeah.
I love the fact you talk about innovation, because this is crucially important right now.
Well, it's, I think it's even funny right now that a lot of ideas, things that you would never have tried before because it was like, oh, we're not going to do that. That's a silly idea. Now, you know, I know in two of our companies, ideas that I personally thought were stupid.
Mm.
Now we're using them and they're making us good money. So it's like, you
Go
know,
on, what is it?
sometimes we crush ideas
Yeah,
because they're not the usual way. But in times of turmoil and change, you really do need to be using some of those ideas immediately.
so
We're willing to try more things.
what are those two ideas? I'm really curious
Oh,
to know,
totally.
because
No, it take way too long to explain. But, you know, it's interesting just how we can be so dismissive of an idea.
yeah,
But in times of crisis, we go, yeah, let's try that, you know.
and
We got
then
to
it works.
try more things, I think, is probably the biggest lesson from it. In normal times, just keep trying new things. The old, you know, there's that old saying, if it isn't broke, don't break it. Well, the reality of the world is right now, it is broken. So keep trying every dang thing.
That's true. That's true. You see, a friend of mine, he's based in Canada. He deliberately
Mhm.
asked me to ask you this question. He's like, Olga, I know you're going to speak to Brad. Please ask him this. And it's about business, because he's thinking to franchise out, and he found out you have this program about franchising. I even
Mhm.
didn't know that. I was like, oh, Brad has this program. So he was curious how important right now it is to franchise, or maybe it's better to wait until later, because he's really keen to actually join that and he wants to know more. But is it now or is it for later? What would be your opinion on that?
Well, you've got to see where we're at from the franchise perspective is that the world is, there's a lot of people who are now not working that used to be working. And so there's a lot more people looking for franchises and looking to do stuff. But
Mhm.
also there's a lot of people who have just, it's not that they're looking to do it because they're out of work. It's that they're sitting there thinking, I don't enjoy my work. I don't want to go
Okay.
back to doing that. The world life, you know, the whole life is too short has become a very clear thing within this uh, pandemic, because you sit here and you think, okay, I can go back to work and do what I used to do, but I don't enjoy that. So maybe I should look to do something entirely different, and build a life for myself that's different. So now franchising is actually in a very good time because there is a lot
Mm.
of people looking. But that's
Right.
also balanced with the fact that it's going to be harder to get capital for you know, a period of time. So,
Mm.
but then again, the governments are putting so much money into the economy that maybe it won't be harder to get capital. You know, that's something we're going to have to watch and see. I know for me, these next few weeks are going to be looking for deal after deal after deal.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's one of those simple things that I'm looking at the market, the landscape of the market right now, thinking there will be a million and one great deals, because there will be companies where they were lazy during this thing.
Yeah.
In fact, they were lazy coming into it. And so now it's going to be even worse for them. So, you know, if your business, if you're being lazy, and because the economies were very good, there are a lot of businesses that were just, I call them fat and
Hmm.
happy. You know,
Hmm.
they just got so fat and lazy because of the fact that now during this time, if you didn't work your tail off during this, I've never worked this hard in a lot of years. I have not worked this hard in a
Wow.
long, long time. Let's just put it that way. And
Right.
I say that because in times of economic downturn, two things. Number one, the market really needs help. So I need to get in there and help
Yeah.
as many people as I can, because to save a business, to save an economy, you have to save every single business. And
Absolutely.
like when 2008 hit, I literally started traveling the world teaching. Well, this
Yeah.
time round, I don't need to travel the world to teach. This time round, I can teach from right here in my home office.
Mhm.
And literally in the last 8 weeks, I've taught more than 500,000 people how to survive this thing. And so, you know, when you sit back and you start looking at what needs to happen, I had to be busy. I had to be out there teaching because that's what the market needed from me. But add to that, that I had to, like 7 of our 9 companies, we had to rethink. 7 of our 9 companies, we had to pivot, we had to change, we had to rethink everything about the business because they're just, okay, what are we going to do? Our old business is dead or half dead. How are we going to survive this thing? And so that was sort of a very big part of what I've been doing in the last X number of weeks, is making sure that all of our companies survive and get through this thing. And once we got them into survival mode, then it was a matter of how do we get them to thrive? Now, if you've been lazy during this period, you've missed a massive opportunity because this economic turmoil is where crisis and turmoil bring opportunity. That's just the way the world has always worked. And this is truly an economic transformation. It is going to transform the way business is done forever. You know, we will never go back to the same way. Restaurants, everything will operate slightly differently from now on. You know, I know even like our restaurant, we have one here that we had to shut down. It's in one of the casinos. So we had no opportunity to trade. We were not allowed on the site even. So it's like, okay, we are shut. And what are we going to do about that? And basically all we could do was rethink our business, retrain our people, get everyone ready for when this thing starts up again. And that's been a very hard task, but that's basically all we can do. So it's just a matter of continuously doing what you can do in any marketplace you're in. So that's the sort of thing. And I think that's why if businesses have been lazy during this time frame, then they are going to pay the ultimate price, because their customers are going to go somewhere else because the other people have done what needed to be done in order to keep their business running and keep their business afloat. And I think that's an important aspect to always be thinking about. But from a franchising perspective, I would say that franchising is in a very good place coming in the near future.
That's great. That's great to hear. So in that case, I'll say to my friends, it's safe, go into Brad's program, because he's really eager to actually find out more. But I love what you said about passing on knowledge, and what you were doing lately is teaching millions of people. And I think looking at what happens right now in the market, everybody is jumping into being an expert in something. Everybody's extracting some sorts of knowledge. But
it's amazing the number
powerful.
of experts on viruses I've seen pop up on my
No.
Facebook feed, and that guy couldn't even pass basic English in high school. Yeah, now he's an expert on this stuff. You know. Anyway,
I know it is quite scary. You're right. Yes, and now a number of people who are not expert in anything is
but
ridiculous.
they were all experts on Brexit too, just prior. So.
Oh yes, and this is what I meant exactly. I actually made a video literally when we were hit by this COVID-19. I made a video. People, there'll be always something. We had Brexit. Now we have COVID. I said, focus on your life. I mean, stop being so negative and focusing so much attention on the world. Focus on your family, your business. How can you survive, and how can you use what you have? But what you said earlier really hit me hard. You said people will start thinking whether they enjoy doing what they do or they don't. And I think it's so powerful when right now people can evaluate whether they want to go back or not. And if they don't want to go back, learn, educate yourself, become better. Like, when else if not now? You can jump on the course with Brad Sugars or somebody else and learn something new which you can apply. I think this is so powerful.
Literally the first week of this, I recorded a 10-part training, 5 hours over 10 days, a half an hour a day for people to learn how to survive this thing. And I just put it out there for free, and it was quite amazing. Thousands and thousands of people jumped on to learn all of that. But I sit back and I look at the people who, oh no, it's done. And they just head in the sand. No, come on, let's go. We've got something we've got a game to play here. We need to know. And I think was interesting with all of our clients in the beginning. The first thing we made all of them do is do their numbers. Do your numbers, get to know your numbers, know exactly where you're at. Because there were a lot of people who went into panic just saying, oh, the world's ended. This is going to kill my business. Really? Let's look at your numbers. What exactly is going to happen for your business? And the moment we did their exact numbers, they calmed down a lot, because they're like, oh, so at the worst, I'm going to lose 5,000 a month. Yes, that's your position. Okay, so what we have to do is find 5,000 a month in extra business. How are we going to do that? What are we going to do to make that happen? And you know, those are some of the things that I find it's easy to get caught up in the nature of things. And I sit there, and I had to actually scold one of the CEOs of one of my companies yesterday, because he was sitting there reading the news all the time, and he'd come to every meeting negative. I said, can you just stop? Dude, stop reading the newspaper. Stop watching the news. I'm sick and tired of hearing this negativity out of you. That's not the way we respond to things here. We get on with it. We control what we can control, and we let go of the other things. So
that's so important. And when you look at some of the leaders who actually in their businesses, they are full of negativity. What staff will do? They will just copy the same behavior. And I think
unfortunately, some people are struggling to get their eye on the prize. They're struggling to focus on what's needed. They're focusing on what's, wrong and all of that sort of stuff. And, that I can understand that. But again, that's why I have a coaching business, to get people out of that mindset. Because when change occurs like this, the natural human reaction is to go to the fear, because the shock that comes from massive change leads people to the emotional side of themselves that really, if we're blunt, will take them into a depressive, negative state if they don't have a way of getting out of it. Now, that's why we've taught every business owner through this entire period, make sure that you actually have something to focus on for your staff. Because fear only gets turned into focus when there is something to focus on. And too many businesses left their staff alone and left their staff to struggle with the negativity of this thing. And that's where I know for us, we make sure my HR managers speak to every single team member every week, because a very bad part of virtual business is the feeling of being alone. And that feeling of being alone can kill some people. It really is tough for them. And so to keep them productive while they feel like they're alone is almost impossible. So we do a lot of stuff to make sure that our team don't feel alone, to make sure they feel connected and that sort of thing. And we're lucky enough we can start moving some people back into our office. And the ones we're moving back in first are those who are the extroverts, who are people-oriented. So on the DISC profile, they're the high I's and the high S's. They're the ones moving back in first. So we can't... some of our older people and some of our people who have pre-existing conditions will probably never come back into the office. They'll probably work from home for forever. They might come and visit the office once a week or something like that, but we're not going to take that risk until we're certain that that risk is okay. And interesting
quite
times.
Interesting. It is, yes. And what's quite fascinating, I think, people were talking so much previously about how hard and challenging and difficult it is to work from home because there's so many distractions and laundry and kids. And now it seems like the world is dealing with that just absolutely effortlessly and perfect. So how do you deal with distraction? Because you have plenty of children to look after and businesses and phone calls and everything. How do you deal with actually these bizarre thing, daily thing called distraction?
Yeah, I'm not sure the world is doing it that well. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who are feeling, because the other feeling that comes from working from home is that you can't escape work. And people used to be able to drive home and therefore switch off. And that is not happening as much today, because obviously your work is on your kitchen table or on, because most people's homes are not designed to work from home. My home, I built this home. I designed it specifically so that my wife and I, we have a massive office space here that we sit opposite each other and do our work. And we built it in that fashion to say, okay, this is how we're going to run our business. So we're pretty lucky. I mean, that's where I look at the remodeling industry right now. The home remodeling industry is going to go through a massive boom, purely because of people needing either home offices or home study areas for their kids. There's going to be a massive people wanting to change bedrooms into, but I look at my clients, and we've got clients who are landscapers. They're doing more work today than they've ever been. They've never been busier because everyone's home and they want to change up their backyard. Okay, I've got to spend this much time in my backyard. I remember this thing started in March, and March here is the start of spring, and it's like, okay, we need to get the pool heated and on, and it's like, all right, get the pool heating company out to service the heaters, and boom, they couldn't come out for a couple of days. I'm like, why? And they said, we are busy as we have never been this busy in forever. And it's like,
wow,
dang, that's crazy. But that's the way things are. There's so many businesses doing so much right now, and that's where keep looking for those opportunities, keep looking for those deals. Over the next 12 months, there are going to be millions of people who won't put their kids back into school, who just won't do it. And so they're going to be opportunities. And that's sort of the biggest thing that you have to be thinking right now is, where are those opportunities sitting right now today? You just have to be continuously thinking that way.
that is so true. And I must say, between you and me and everybody who is watching this video, I don't think so. I'm looking forward to go back to that normal. To me, it's like there was nothing so exciting. They were stuck in the traffic. There was lots of driving up and down, lots of meetings, which you think, well, seriously, do I have to be here? And to be honest, it's about building the new world. And when you say opportunities, lots of businesses will want to go for sale because people will understand I'm not passionate about that. Lots of businesses will go down the hill because the leaders will not know how to pick them up. So those who were always searching for what can I do right now can start seeking what businesses to buy, just like what you do, because you're the master at that. I mean, God knows how many
businesses. They should read Billionaire in Training first. Read my book, Billionaire in Training, first before you go and buy a business.
That's very true, because you should learn from the best. But do you have a plan for yourself? Like, do you look forward to build something brand new, like during this time? I know you're reinventing right now. I got that. But what would be your exciting step? Like, what are you looking forward to?
What we're looking forward to is the same as everyone else: eating in a restaurant and going to a bar and watching a hockey game. We're looking forward to the same human things that a lot of other people. From a business perspective, what I'm looking forward to is about a month from now when the deals start showing up. It's right now, a lot of the deals aren't there because people are just sort of waiting, but about a month from now, there'll be a lot of deals coming through, and that's sort of where we're going to start doing it. And again, I look to every business opportunity that comes up based on some very simple rules. And as I mentioned, if you read my book, the rules are written in there about how you buy businesses that, that's the thing. But I personally believe there's going to be many, many new businesses invented during this time. And that's where I sit here looking at, even the share market. It's like what's the next Uber? What's the next WhatsApp? What's the next of these sort of companies that are going to evolve from this? That's really where I'm looking for the evolution of industries more than just one particular business.
I love the word evolution. This just speaks for itself. That's it. Evolutionize everything. Well, even yourself.
This transformation of society is massive. This transformation is, all you've got to keep thinking is we've gone a decade in a quarter. That's the transformation. That's the level of change that has happened. In one quarter, we've created an entire 10 years of change. It might only be 5, but it's going to be dang close to 10.
That's so true. And we don't even realize how big impact it has on, first of all, our own mindset. And
mindset's been tough during this one for a lot of people.
Yeah. What was your biggest challenge through in terms of mindset during this time? Have you found yourself sometimes feeling a bit down? Let's be honest, because
Oh,
everybody
there
has
was a
this
point, and
moment.
I did a video on this. There was a point where I just got to frustration. It was like I'm so frustrated with
Right.
the whole, and that's about being out of control, being not able to make your own decisions, being,
Yeah.
oh, what decision can I make? None, none. I can't make
Yeah.
any decision. How come? Because the
Yep.
governor told me that I'm not allowed to do this,
Hmm.
or this. And so that feeling of frustration definitely got there. But I had to sit down and look at it and go, and I remember speaking with one of my coaches and saying, okay, I'm in frustration mode. What do I got to do?
Yeah.
And she turned to me and said, well, what do you want to do instead of frustration? She said, and I said, I want to
Good.
do anger instead of frustration. I want to beat something. I was like, she's like, yeah, probably not a positive one. I said, I know, but I had to get it out. And then she
Yeah.
sat down and said to me, what do you actually want to do instead of this? I said, I don't know. Give me some ideas. She said, how about gratitude? Would gratitude be better than
Yeah.
frustration? Yes. I would
Yeah.
really rather put on a gratitude face. And she said, what else? And then I said, I'd like to problem solving. How about problem solving? So,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of finding the things that recognizing the negatives. But I have my own coach who helps me recognize when I'm in a negative space and helps me do all that sort of stuff. So I have my mindset coach, I have my business coach, and I have my finance coaches. So during this time, I'm chatting with my finance coaches about where we're investing, and my business coaches about my business, and they're asking me the
Hmm.
right questions so that I'm
Yeah.
focused on the right things. And that's where a lot of people are just not willing to have a coach, and they wonder why they're not getting ahead as fast.
I know, and it's so ridiculous. And Brad, when we look at the sports world, tennis players they have a coach, football players they have a coach. The football coaches might be not the best football players, so it's not about them playing football, but they know how to get things in the right order. And normal people, human beings, they don't really see the value of coaching. And I'm saying, well, if you really want to get better, that means you have to invest, and invest by being uncomfortable, because uncomfortable goals can be achieved by uncomfortable actions. But you can't
Mhm.
really be accountable to yourself. You can't be stretching yourself. It's like brain surgeon cannot do the operation on his own brain because he's the brain surgeon, right? He needs to have somebody else doing the operation on him. And you leading this by
Very
example,
true.
but it's just straightforward. And you just leading by example right now. Have a coach, somebody who will put you back in place. And just like you shared this example, I'm a negative. What would I would like to do? Go and punch things? Maybe not. How about
You
gratitude?
still are human though, and that's the thing. As a
Yes.
human being, you're still going to have these emotions and these thoughts, and you know, if you don't admit to it, you're just being crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone has them, and but that's the thing of having a coach and being with the coach regularly enough so that they pull you out of that pretty dang quick.
Yeah.
And I don't mind having. I've always said, life's too short to have a bad day. You get a bad half hour, and that's about it. Pull your head out and get going again. So
Yes. But what happens if one day you wake up? Because I sometimes have these days, right? Especially on Sundays. I wake up and I'm thinking, you know what? I'll have a lazy morning today and I'll read a book and I'll take my gratitude. I'll write gratitude in my gratitude journal. So I allow myself to have sometimes just beautiful, wonderful, lazy mornings. And I don't call them lazy in terms of like negative. I call them like my me mornings. Do you have these times sometimes?
yeah, you've got it. But then again, I have twin 6-year-olds and a 2-year-old baby. So, to have a
Yeah.
day like that, my wife and I literally have to go and stay somewhere else.
That's so
um,
true.
no,
Well,
but
mine,
look, you must have self time, whether it's
yeah,
meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it is whatever you do to have time to yourself. Everyone needs to have self time, and there's the old theory of all the different love buckets, and one of them is self-love. You've got to give yourself time to be with yourself and do what you need to do. So
that's so true. And especially when actually during this time, everybody, especially if you're a leader, is looking up at you and is asking with their eyes full of fear, what's next? What we're gonna do? What you're gonna tell us? I think during this time, what's important is to go back to your cave, to yourself, and say, you know what? It's my me time. because having so much responsibility what some people have, it's quite challenging to deal with that. And I wonder, but how do you deal with that? I mean, you run so many companies, you have people dependent on you in, I mean, probably every country. I'm not sure, but I think in every country, right? You also have your own family.
About 80 countries.
How many?
80. 81,
80
I think. 81.
Wow, that's shocking. So how do you deal with that pressure of people looking up at you and are waiting from you the next step, the next solution? Brad, tell us, what are we going to do? Brad, give us reassurance. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. But that's what a leader's job is. You know, but a leader doesn't get that size of team overnight. A leader becomes the person that gradually gets that size of team. And, you know, I didn't have thousands of people on my staff in the first year. I had maybe 4 or 5, not even. You know, that's the sort of thing that you got to think. You as a leader have to grow into that. It's like your goals. When you set the goal, the person you are when you set the goal has no ability to achieve the goal.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not setting a goal of something that you know how to do. You set a goal of something that you don't know how to do yet. That's why I always found it interesting. You know, as a young man, I used to get upset when I'd tell people my goals and they'd say, you can't achieve that. Yes, I can. And what I realized is they were right. The person I was at that time couldn't achieve those goals. However, the person I'm becoming can achieve those goals. If I keep building me, and that's the reason to set the goal. I set this goal so I know who I need to become. Who do I need to be? What do I need to learn? What do I need to study? And how do I need to grow to achieve that?
I love that. This is so hot. Honestly, this is my favorite thing. And I call grow into shoes. I remember my mom, she used to buy she used to buy us a bit bigger shoes because we would grow into them. And that's exactly how I look at goals. You set a massive goal for you, so you have goosebumps when you think about it and you think, Jesus, can I really make that? But then you grow into that. And the same with leadership, you just grow into that. But Brad, it's easy to say, right? How do you do it?
Very easy to say.
Exactly. How do you do it? What's your action plan on that?
Well, you just read a book a week. Not that hard. Read a book a week.
Well, but don't you think it's quite dangerous to just read a book a week? Because then when do you apply it?
But as you keep reading it, you change as a person. So application happens naturally.
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, you can't be reading all of that and not have some form of application happening.
But then there are some people who went to seminars, who went to workshops, who read all those books, and they still say nothing changed. What would you say to them?
Well, they're not, they need to keep reading.
I love that.
I mean, it's not a short-term thing. It's not a short-term thing. It's not you know, they could have started from a massively negative mindset that meant they needed 10 years of reading.
Oh, yes.
Versus someone who needed 2 years of reading. You know, the thing is, if you want success, it's all about new knowledge. And if you're not taking action, there's a piece of knowledge missing, you know, because you're just not applying what you've already learned. So, you know, or there's a mentor missing or a coach missing or some part of it, you know. The speed with which you learn is the speed with which you get your goals. So learn slow, get your goals slow. Learn fast, get your goals fast. And that's where, you know, again and again and again, we sit back and just make those decisions about how fast we want to learn.
Love that. And what you said there is quite powerful about the accumulation of what we have in our heads. The more you learn, the more you can apply things. And also, I think we must remember, the older we become, the more things we have to deal with. It could be baggages, it could be negative beliefs, it could be something that was holding you back for years and years. So the younger person is, the easier for them is to develop themselves versus somebody who is 70 and they have to deal with all those insecurities built over the years. What do you think about that?
Every age has its advantages and disadvantages. You know, when I was young, true. I had the advantage of flexibility that is different to where I'm at today. But where I'm at today, I have the advantage of wisdom that I didn't have when I was young. So, you know, every age is a good age. Every position you're at in life is a good position. And, you know, it's very easy for anyone to sit back and say, oh, look at them, they have the advantage of X. You know, I was chatting with a young person the other day, and they said, you know, well, I just don't have all of these things. I said, yeah, but that means you also have much more flexibility. You can change in a heartbeat. You can do whatever you want to do. You can, and it's, you know, I think everyone's got to look at their situation as a positive, not as a negative.
It's true. And taking opportunity in every situation, because why to concentrate what you cannot? Think about what you can. Think about what you're able to do, and think about what you have done already. Rather, some people just sit back and complain about what is not possible because of their status or age or something else. Particularly when people say, I'm too old, I'm too young. And I'm thinking, well, there's no such a thing. There is no such a thing. There's so many people who are still very, very young and they turn millions. And there's so many people who only started after they got in their 50s and 60s and they turn millions. There's no young or old. There's no such a thing. But, you know, right now, you're obviously not 15 anymore, right? You're not 20 anymore. You have lots of children, you have wife, you have lots of businesses to run. Have you ever thought you will go that far? I mean, when you start doing your goals, when you set up your first ever goal, did you think how far you will go?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because many people would say no.
No, I look, I always knew I'd be successful. I always knew what I was going to achieve in life. And I always knew that because I started reading early on, 16 years of age. I started reading books by Jim Rohn and, you know, Dale Carnegie and the magic of thinking big and Think and Grow Rich and all of these books when I was 16 and 17. Now, you know, the greatest thing about 16 and 17 is you're young and impressionable. The problem with 16 and 17 is you're young and impressionable. And if the only people you listen to at 16 and 17 are your friends from high school rather than Jim Rohn, you know, when you're reading books and listening to Earl Nightingale at 17 and thinking, dang, this is what the possibilities of life are, that's an entirely different story to your buddy telling you, you know, the stupid stuff they're doing this weekend type thing. So I think everyone wants to get there eventually. But yeah, I firmly believed it. But the other thing is, it's hard to see around a street corner till you get to the end of the street. Oh, yeah. And so if you're looking at the next level in your life, it's hard to, like, people set the goal of driving the Ferrari. Well, why don't you first of all just set the goal of getting a new car, you know, a new Toyota. A new Toyota would be a good starting point. Yeah. We can work towards the dream of the Ferrari, but let's start with step one. You know, and then go to step two and then step three. I think I've always been fairly pragmatic or practical about getting there in that fashion. So
I love that. I wish everybody would be like you, having that mindset of actually go educate yourself, apply, go learn more. So what would you say right now would be the things what people should do after this conversation? Because I mean, I wish time could be stretched because I haven't even realized.
Well, the first thing they should do is buy all 17 of my books and read them.
Oh, there we go. I love that. I love that.
Follow me on all social medias. You know, no, look, I think that very simply put, you've got to make some decisions around what level of game you want to be playing right now. You know, what level do you want to play this game at? Do you want to play it as, you know, a full-on let's go for it type thing? Or do you want to play this game with, okay, I'm just going to sit back and wait and see? The biggest shift in wealth since 2008 to 2012 is happening right now. So you're either a part of this game or you're not.
Very true. Very true. So everybody who was watching us today, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for taking your time, whether it was lunch, breakfast, or dinner you had with us. Thank you so much. But Brad, thank you so much for jumping on this show and actually sharing so much wisdom of yours. As I said earlier, I absolutely admire what you do, and I have your books here. I read them. I applied so many things, and this was actually got me to where I am now. So thank you so much for all your wisdom, and thank you everybody who was with us.
Take care, Olga.
Take care.